and why the US dollar still dominates the world and what could replace it. Picture this. You're in Tokyo buying sushi, in Dubai purchasing oil, or in London trading stocks. What's the one thing all these transactions probably have in common? They're happening in US dollars. Not Japanese yen, not Emirati dirhams, not British pounds, American dollars. Here's the wild part. The dollar is involved in about 88% of all global currency trades, even when Americans aren't part of the deal. A German company buying Brazilian coffee? They're probably paying in dollars. It's like the entire world decided to speak one financial language, and that language is American. But here's the trillion-dollar question. Literally, how long can this last? And what happens when it doesn't? What's up, everyone? Today we're diving deep into one of the most powerful forces shaping our global economy, the dollar's absolute dominance over world finance. We'll explore how a piece of paper printed in Washington controls trillion-dollar trades in every corner of the globe, and why some of the world's biggest powers are desperately trying to change that. And hey, smash that like button if you want to understand the money that moves the world. Let's start with a story that'll blow your mind. In 2019, a French bank got fined $9 billion by the US government. What was their crime? They processed payments for countries America didn't like: Sudan, Iran, Cuba. But here's the kicker. These were French transactions between French banks involving French clients. So why could America fine them? Simple. They used dollars. The moment any transaction touches the US dollar, even for a split second, it falls under American jurisdiction. It's like having a global financial superpower, and the US has been wielding it for decades. This is lesson number 1. Control the currency. Control the game. The dollar isn't just money. It's the ultimate geopolitical weapon. So how did we get here? It all started in 1944 in a small New Hampshire town called Bretton Woods. World War II was ending, and the world needed a new financial system. The British pound, which had dominated for centuries, was broke. European economies were in ruins. But America? America was the only major power that came out of the war stronger. So 44 countries got together and basically said, "Hey America, your dollar can be the world's reserve currency." In exchange, the US promised that dollars could always be exchanged for gold at $35 an ounce. This created what economists call the Bretton Woods system. Suddenly, every country needed dollars to trade internationally. Want to buy oil? You need dollars. Want to trade with other countries? Better get some dollars first. But then Nixon pulled the ultimate power move in 1971. He said, "Actually, we're not going to exchange dollars for gold anymore." This should have killed the dollar's dominance, right? Wrong. It made it stronger. Here's where it gets fascinating. Even without gold backing it, the dollar became more essential than ever. Why? 3 reasons that created an unstoppable cycle. First, oil. In the 1970s, America made a deal with Saudi Arabia and other oil producers. They would only sell oil in dollars, what we call petrodollars. Suddenly, every country on Earth needed dollars just to keep their lights on and cars running. Second, the US Treasury market became the world's safe haven. When things get scary, wars, panics, recessions, investors don't run to gold or real estate. They run to US government bonds. It's like the world's most trusted savings account, and it only accepts dollars. Third, network effects. The more people use dollars, the more useful dollars become. If everyone else is pricing things in dollars, you pretty much have to use dollars too. It's like social media. Facebook isn't necessarily the best platform, but everyone's on it, so you have to be too. This is lesson number 2. Sometimes being first and biggest matters more than being best. Let's talk numbers for a second because they're absolutely mind-blowing. About 60% of all foreign currency reserves held by central banks are in dollars. That's roughly $7 trillion sitting in vaults around the world, all in American currency. In international trade, the dollar is used in about 40% of all transactions. For comparison, the euro, the second most used currency, is only in about 19% of trades. The Chinese yuan, despite China being the world's second largest economy, just 4%. And here's the craziest stat. Even countries that hate America use dollars. Russia, Iran, North Korea, they all need dollars for international business, even while their governments are sanctioned by the US. This gives America what economists call exorbitant privilege. They can print money and buy real stuff from other countries. They can impose sanctions that cripple entire economies without firing a shot. They can fund massive government deficits because the whole world wants to lend to them. But here's where the story gets really interesting. For the first time in 80 years, serious challengers are emerging, and they're not playing around. China launched the digital yuan, the world's first major digital currency backed by a central bank. They're building trade relationships with Russia, Iran, and other countries that bypass the dollar entirely. When China buys oil from Russia now, they're paying in yuan, not dollars. The European Union created the Instex system to trade with Iran without using dollars. They're basically building a parallel financial system that America can't control. Even cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are being called digital gold, a way to store value without depending on any government's currency. And here's what should terrify American policymakers. These alternatives are starting to work. In 2022, for the first time ever, China and Russia conducted more than half their trade in currencies other than the dollar. So what could actually replace the dollar? Let's look at the contenders. The Chinese yuan is the obvious candidate. China's economy is massive, their trade relationships are growing, and they're aggressively promoting yuan-based transactions. But they've got problems too. Their financial markets aren't as open as America's, and other countries don't fully trust their government's control over the currency. The euro looked promising for a while, but the European Union has struggled with unity. When Greece nearly went bankrupt, when Brexit happened, when COVID hit, the euro showed it's not as stable as the dollar during crises. Digital currencies could be game changers. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, might allow countries to trade directly without needing dollars as an intermediary. But this technology is still experimental. Some people even think we might go back to gold or adopt cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. But these options have their own massive problems: volatility, scalability, government resistance. Here's lesson number 3. Replacing a dominant system is incredibly hard, even when that system has obvious flaws. But here's what most people miss. The dollar's biggest threat might not be external competition. It might be America itself. Every time the US uses financial sanctions, they give other countries a reason to find alternatives. Every time American politics creates uncertainty about debt payments or government shutdowns, they make the dollar look less reliable. The massive money printing during COVID raised questions about inflation and dollar stability. America's growing national debt, now over $33 trillion, makes some investors nervous about long-term value. And here's the big one. America's political polarization is starting to affect financial credibility. When politicians threaten to default on government debt for political points, it makes the whole system look unstable. This is lesson number 4. Dominance isn't permanent. Every empire in history thought their power would last forever, and every empire was wrong. So what does this mean for you? If you're an investor, understanding currency dynamics is crucial. Dollar strength affects everything from stock prices to commodity costs to international investments. If the dollar weakens significantly, American consumers might face higher prices for imported goods, everything from electronics to clothing to food, but American exporters might find it easier to sell their products abroad. If you're thinking about international business or travel, currency trends matter enormously. A stronger dollar makes overseas trips cheaper for Americans, but harder for foreign tourists to visit America. And if you're just trying to build wealth, remember that the global financial system affects everyone, even if you never leave your hometown. The dollars in your bank account are connected to oil trades in the Middle East, manufacturing in China, and banking in Europe. Here's my prediction. The dollar will remain dominant for the next decade, but its monopoly is ending. We're probably heading toward a multi-currency world where the dollar, yuan, euro, and maybe digital currencies all play major roles. This transition won't happen overnight. We're talking years or decades, not months. And it won't be smooth. Currency shifts create winners and losers, economic disruption, and political tensions. But here's the opportunity. Understanding these changes before they happen completely can position you to benefit, rather than just survive the transition. The dollar's dominance has shaped the last 80 years of global prosperity. What replaces it will shape the next 80 years. And that story is being written right now. So there you have it, the incredible story of how American paper became global power, and why that power might not last forever. The world of money is changing faster than ever, and the countries and people who understand these changes first will have enormous advantages. What do you think? Will the dollar still dominate in 2050, or are we heading for a completely new financial world order? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you found this deep dive valuable, hit that subscribe button because we've got way more videos exploring the forces that shape our economic future. I'll see you in the next one.